Everyone in life will experience moments of weariness, days when the heart feels as heavy as stone. Sometimes it's not due to a major event, but just the small, mundane things in daily life. A careless word, an indifferent glance, a minor setback. They can still leave our hearts in turmoil. Afflictions are like silent, surging waves that rise stealthily and drown us in fatigue. We imagine that just a little more money, a little more affection, or more recognition from others will bring happiness. But the more we chase, the more agitated our minds become. The more we cling, the more our hearts ache. Suffering is not found outside, but within our own hearts. Others can hurt us, but true suffering comes from our inability to let go. We let go of a word, yet hold on to resentment. We let go of a relationship, yet cling to memories. We let go of a dream, yet retain regret. Thus, our hearts gradually narrow, leaving no room for peace to reside. Many people live their entire lives in resentment, unaware that happiness has never truly gone far. It just waits for us to let go a little. Some say letting go is ignoring. It's giving up. But in reality, letting go is not indifference. It is a profound understanding of life. When we know how to let go, it's when we are mature enough to see that some things, no matter how tightly we hold, cannot be grasped. Some people, no matter how deeply we love, cannot be held onto. Letting go is opening up freedom for both ourselves and others. Like a bird, when the cage door is opened, it will fly to its own sky. And we too feel light as we watch it go, no longer suffering from wanting to control everything. In the currents of life, full of conflicts and calculations, everyone seeks a place of peace. But peace is not found where we go, but in the state of mind we carry. A person living in a bustling city can still find serenity if their heart is no longer caught up in winning and losing. Conversely, a person in the tranquil mountains and forests might still suffer if their mind hasn't learned how to let go. Letting go is a long journey, not an instantaneous action. It requires us to realize that what causes us pain is not the circumstance, but our own attachment within. Happiness, therefore, is not about how much we have, but how much we can let go of. When we know how to stop, how to breathe slowly, how to smile at ourselves, then even if storms rage around us, we can still be at peace. Sometimes happiness is not about getting what we want, but about learning to love and accept what we have. Life is inherently imperfect, but if our mind is sufficiently at peace, even the imperfect becomes complete. Therefore, learn to let go a little, relax a little, to feel that life still holds so many lovely things. Only when the mind is at peace will life be at peace. The hardest thing in life is not how to get more, but how to lessen the heart's troubles and the mind's agitation. Some people spend their entire lives searching for happiness in wealth, fame, and affection, only to find themselves empty in the end. Because the more we grasp, the more we fear losing. The more we want, the more we fear lacking. The root of all suffering is not in this world, but in each person's mind. The Buddha once taught, "The mind is the root of all phenomena. When the mind is clear, all things are clear. When the mind is agitated, even heaven and earth become restless." Afflictions are actually a product of the attached mind. Whenever we cling to something, believing it is ours, that it is right, or that someone is making us suffer, afflictions arise. It's like holding a handful of sand. The tighter you grasp, the more it slips through your fingers. The more we try to control, the less freedom we have. In life, people are easily angered, easily saddened, easily hurt, because everyone thinks their emotions are the truth. But if we look deeply, we will see that all emotions are just fleeting breezes. They come and go. Nothing lasts forever. It's only because we don't want them to leave that they stay and erode our hearts, little by little. All that causes us suffering originates from a restless mind, a careless word from someone else. If our mind is calm, we'll just be a gentle breeze. But if our mind is agitated, it becomes a knife plunging into the heart. The circumstance is the same, but the peaceful person sees it as a lesson, while the suffering person sees it as a punishment. So, this world isn't about others causing us suffering, but about how our mind reacts to life. When the mind is bright, everything is bright. When the mind is dim, everything is dark. In the Dhammapada, there is a verse: mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, then suffering follows him, as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. This simple verse contains the entire truth of life. People suffer from anger, unaware that anger is self-immolation. People suffer from resentment, not realizing that resentment only makes the heart tighter. All afflictions arise from our unwillingness to let go. There's a short story about Ms. Lan, a gentlewoman from a village in central Vietnam. She lived simply, diligently, loving her children and grandchildren. But in her heart, she held on to resentment for over 20 years. Long ago, she had a precious porcelain cup, an heirloom left by her mother. During an ancestral feast, Ms. Hoa, a close neighbor, accidentally broke it. It was a small incident, but Ms. Lan remained angry. From that day on, she stopped speaking to Ms. Hoa. Every time she looked at the empty cupboard where the cup used to be, she would sigh. Every time someone mentioned Ms. Hoa, she would frown. Time passed. Many in the village advised her to let it go, but she remained silent, her heart full of suppressed anger and resentment. One day, her daughter played a Dharma talk for her. In it, the teacher explained that the mind is the root of all phenomena, and all suffering and happiness arise from one's own mind. If we cling to the self, we will suffer. If we know how to let go, we will find peace. Ms. Lan sat listening, her heart suddenly tightening. She thought, the cup broke long ago, but perhaps only she was still holding the broken pieces in her hand. The pain was no longer in the cup, but in her own mind. She realized that throughout all those years, the one who suffered most wasn't Ms. Hoa, but herself. The next morning, Ms. Lan went to her neighbor's house. Ms. Hoa was sweeping the yard and hesitated, unsure how to greet her. Ms. Lan looked at her and gently smiled. The old matter is long past. Let's not be angry anymore, sister. Ms. Hoa was stunned, tears welling up in her eyes. The two women stood in the yard, neither saying anything more, just smiling at each other. The heavy burden in Ms. Lan's heart seemed to vanish. From that day on, her sleep became deeper. Mornings felt less heavy, and every time she looked into the cupboard, she no longer felt empty, but felt her heart open wide. Ms. Lan's story is simple, yet a profound lesson for all of us. In this life, how many broken porcelain cups have we been holding on to? It could be a hurtful word, a betrayal, a lost trust, or an unfinished dream. We say we've forgotten, but deep down, we still hold on to it. We think we've forgiven, but a trace of anger and resentment still lingers in our eyes. That suffering isn't in the other person, but in our unwillingness to let go. When the mind clings, small matters become large. When the mind lets go, large matters become small. In Buddhism, there is a concept called impermanence. Impermanence means that everything in life changes. Nothing lasts forever. People come and go, possessions are acquired and lost, joys arrive and then fade. If we understand this, we will no longer suffer from trying to hold on to things that don't truly belong to us. When we realize life is a flow, we no longer want to grasp a single drop of water. When we realize this body is impermanent, we will cherish every breath, every present moment. The human mind is like the surface of water. When the wind of afflictions blows, the water's surface ripples. The more we resist the waves, the larger they become. Only when we let the waves settle themselves will the water become clear again. Letting go doesn't mean defeat. It means choosing peace. Forgiveness isn't because the other person deserves it, but because our heart deserves peace. When we understand the nature of impermanence, we will no longer want to argue right or wrong. When we see that the root of suffering lies within ourselves, we will stop blaming others. Sometimes people think that letting go is the hardest thing. But in reality, the hardest thing is not letting go, but realizing that you are holding on to anger, holding on to love, holding on to fear, holding on to regret. When we realize our hand is clenched, then letting go can begin. Like someone falling into water. Only when they stop struggling can the water support them to float. The mind is the same. The more we struggle with afflictions, the deeper we sink. Only when we relax can we float to the surface of peace. Life is not without people who hurt us, but the one who causes us the longest pain is ourselves. Every time we recall old events, we are scratching at old wounds. Every time we recount our sorrow, we are imprisoning ourselves in darkness. Only when we are willing to close off the past can light penetrate the heart. Forgiving others is actually unlocking oneself. In Buddhist teachings, the wise don't seek fault in others, but in their own minds. When we still look outward to blame, we still suffer. When we turn inwards to illuminate the mind, we begin the path to liberation. Instead of asking why they made us sad, ask why our heart was disturbed. The answer will help us understand ourselves better. If one day you feel your heart is heavy, try sitting still, breathing slowly, and asking yourself, what am I holding on to? It could be anger, regret, or an old promise. When you realize this, you will smile, because it turns out what has caused us suffering all this time isn't others, but our own mind unwilling to let go. And then, when you truly let go, you will see everything become lighter. The person who once hurt you is now just a shadow in your memory. The story that once made you cry now becomes a lesson to smile about. Life remains the same, only your mind has changed. For when the mind changes, the scenery changes. Afflictions, in the end, are just clouds passing through the sky of the mind. If we keep looking at the clouds, we'll forget the sky. But if we know how to look up, we will see that the sky is still clear. The mind is originally as bright as a mirror, only clouded by the dust of attachment. Wipe away that layer of dust, and we will see our heart as pure as it was in the beginning. Therefore, learn to let go a little sooner, love a little more, understand a little deeper. Don't wait until everything shatters to realize that nothing is worth suffering for so long. Don't hold on to broken pieces in your heart, for they will make your heart bleed. Let them dissolve like an afternoon rain, so that after the rain, your mind will be as bright as new sunlight. And then you will understand a simple truth that the Buddha taught. There is no path to peace. Peace is the path itself. When the mind is at peace, life will be at peace. When you can let go, happiness will find you. Therefore, live very lightly, so your heart can be free. So every day is a day of peace. Some things, the tighter you hold, the more they hurt. Some people, the tighter you grasp, the further they drift away. Life is like a flowing river. The more you try to hold it back, the more it slips through your fingers. People often fear letting go, thinking it means losing. But in reality, letting go is not giving up. Letting go is an art of living, a deep understanding of impermanence. Only when we know how to let go can we open our hearts to the present. Only then can we see happiness silently flowing amidst the simplest things. In life's journey, each of us has had things we were unwilling to let go of. Perhaps a loved one who has passed away, an unfulfilled love, an unachieved dream, or an unhealed wound. We hold on to them, thinking that it is loyal to memories. But the more we hold on, the more we are trapped in suffering. How can a clenched hand receive something new? How can a heart full of regret make room for joy? Letting go is not forgetting, but laying down the burden that has been on our shoulders for too long. Many people live their entire lives with the past, with things that cannot be changed. They forever remember a hurtful word, a person who left, something that once caused them pain. They don't know that by clinging, they are renewing their pain every day. Letting go is not denying memories, but learning to look at them with a tranquil mind. It's like looking at a withered flower. We don't regret it, because we know that next season, flowers will bloom again. Life is the same. Every loss is an opportunity for us to learn to love more deeply and understand life more broadly. The Lin. An Buddhist channel recalls a touching story about Ms. Li, a mother in a small rural area. She had only one son. Many years ago, while studying far from home, her son was in an accident and passed away forever. The day she received the news, she was stunned, as if dead. The small, cozy house was now engulfed in silence. Her son's old bicycle, the one that used to carry him to school, once filled with his laughter every afternoon, became the only thing she still kept. From that day on, she cleaned the bicycle every day, positioning it neatly in the corner of the porch. Every morning, she would look at it, and tears would fall endlessly. She feared that if she let go of the bicycle, she would forget her son. Months and years passed. Her hair had turned gray. One day, the village temple held a retreat. She followed a friend to listen to the Dharma. The abbot spoke in a voice light as the wind, saying, "Letting go is not forgetting, but allowing love to deepen. When we hold on to pain, the soul of the departed is also bound. When we let go, not only are we freed, but our loved one also finds peace." Those words pierced the mother's heart like an arrow. That night, Ms. Lee returned home, sat beside the old bicycle for a very long time, placed her hand on the bicycle seat, and softly said, "My child, I won't forget you, but I will let you go more peacefully." The next day, she decided to give the bicycle to a poor boy in the village who walked to school every day. When she saw the boy joyfully cycling away, she smiled without tears. She suddenly understood that true love doesn't disappear. It only transforms into a different form, from tears to smiles, from pain to compassion. Every time she saw the bicycle glide along the village road, she felt as if her son was still present somewhere in the small joys of others. This story is simple, but imbued with wisdom. Ms. Le didn't forget her son. She simply stopped holding on to the pain as a burden. She no longer allowed memories to bind her, but let love spread. When we truly understand the meaning of letting go, we will realize that nothing is truly lost. Everything just transforms. Water evaporates into clouds, then rain falls back to earth. Love is the same. When we know how to let go, it doesn't vanish, but becomes energy that nourishes others. In Buddhism, letting go is the path of wisdom. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, and letting go is the root of peace. The wise don't cling to what's past, nor fear what's yet to come. They live fully in the present, understanding that only this moment is real. Letting go is not ceasing to love, but loving without attachment. When we love without demanding, without expecting a return, that love is truly pure. Many people fear letting go, thinking it's a sign of weakness. They believe that not holding on means they're not resolute. But in reality, only those who dare to let go are the strongest. Anyone can cling, but only those who understand life can release. Letting go requires courage because it demands us to confront the emptiness in our hearts with the truth that everything is impermanent. But it is precisely when we accept impermanence that we find the most peace. Letting go does not mean being indifferent. It is the maturation of the soul. When we are young, we think that holding tightly is love. As we grow older, we understand that allowing others freedom is true love. Just as when we tend a plant, if we keep grasping its trunk, it cannot grow. Only when we let the plant reach for the light can it flourish. People are the same. The happiness of others cannot be held in our palms. We must let them fly on their own paths. When we let go, we are trusting in karma, believing that everything comes and goes for a reason. Try looking back at your life. Is there anything you've been holding on to for too long? An old relationship? A mistake you made? An unfulfilled dream? If the karmic connection for all those things has ended, holding on to them only burdens the heart. Every day we carry them as if carrying a backpack full of stones. Only when we put it down do we feel light. Letting go is a small act, but brings a big change. It's like opening a window, and light immediately floods in. A clenched hand cannot receive something new. If we cling to the past, we will lose the present. If we constantly fear the future, we will miss the joy of this moment. The art of letting go is the art of living with an empty mind. Empty doesn't mean barren, but not being filled with suffering. When the mind is empty, we can receive the new things that life brings. In Zen, there's a saying, to let go is to see. When we let go, we are no longer obscured by deluded thoughts. We begin to clearly see the nature of life, seeing that suffering is also a lesson that helps us grow, seeing that loss is also an opportunity to understand human hearts more deeply. When we stop resisting, life becomes gentle. Like water, the softer it is, the more places it can go. Letting go is also a way of spiritual practice. There's no need to go to a temple or chant sutras all day. Just every day, know how to look back at your mind to see if there's anything you're holding on to too tightly. Every time you're angry, ask yourself, what am I holding on to? Every time you're sad, ask yourself, what am I unwilling to release? Little by little, you will find your heart becoming lighter. And once you can let go, you will smile in the face of all changes. We welcome those who come. We bid farewell to those who leave. We do tasks with all our heart, then let them go when done. No resentment, no hatred, no regret. Just living fully in this moment. That is true freedom. Freedom from our own self-imposed bonds. Life is a long journey, and letting go is the biggest lesson. One who knows how to let go is one who has deeply understood cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing is lost in vain. Every encounter has a reason. Every separation is a lesson. When we can thank everything that has passed, we no longer suffer from them, because everything that happens is to help us grow a little more, be a little kinder, and be a little more at peace. Letting go is not forgetting everything, but learning to love without attachment. Like Ms. Le in the story, when she gave her bicycle to someone else, she didn't lose the memory of her son. On the contrary, that memory became brighter because it had transformed into love for life. Similarly, when we can let go of old things, our mind will be wider, making room for the light of the present to enter. Therefore, don't be afraid to let go. Don't think that letting go is losing. Letting go is opening up, opening new paths for ourselves, for others, for life. When we let go, we are choosing happiness instead of suffering, choosing peace instead of entanglement. Only when we know how to stop will the torrent in the mind stop raging. Try slowing down a little. Breathe deeply and exhale gently. Tell yourself, everything will pass, everyone will go, but I still have myself. One who can smile amidst impermanence. When we truly touch that peace, we will understand that the art of letting go is not defeat, but self-mastery. For only one who can master their own mind is truly victorious. And please remember that happiness doesn't come from how much you have, but from how much you can let go of. When the heart is light, the steps are light. When the mind is at peace, life will be peaceful. Therefore, live very lightly. Don't let small things burden your heart. Let go to be free, to smile, to see that in every small thing, happiness has always been there, just waiting for you to open your heart and receive it. There's a beautiful saying that life isn't about how far you've gone, but whether you are truly present in every step you take. Modern people often live as if they are running, as if there's an invisible race ahead, and anyone who slows down will be left behind. We eat in a hurry, speak in a hurry, even love in a hurry. Day by day, we feel tired, empty, as if life is a passing breeze, leaving nothing but sighs. But in the Buddha's teachings, there is a simple yet profound practice that can help us return. Mindfulness, awareness without judgment, living fully in the present moment. Mindfulness is not something distant, nor a theory only for meditation centers. In fact, it is our breath, our steps, our gaze, our simple awareness of what is happening. When washing dishes, we know we are washing dishes. When drinking tea, we know we are drinking tea. When sad, we know we are sad, without resisting, without escaping, just looking deeply into that emotion and letting it pass like a cloud. The Buddha taught that one who lives mindfully for even a day is more precious than one who lives in ignorance for 100 years. For when we live with mindfulness, we are no longer bound by the past or pulled by the future. We are truly living, not just existing. The cause of suffering mostly comes not from external circumstances, but from a restless mind. When we eat, but our mind thinks about work, we no longer enjoy the taste of the food. When we talk to loved ones, but our mind worries about tomorrow, we don't truly hear the person in front of us. This haste and rush constantly stretch our minds between what's past and what's yet to come. And that gap between the two extremes is where suffering arises. If the mind doesn't settle, no matter how far we go or how much we do, we'll still feel an emptiness. One of the simplest yet most profound examples of haste is the story of Mr. Min, a typical office worker in modern life. Every morning, he woke up before dawn. He checked his phone while eating breakfast, then rushed to work through crowded streets. Breakfast was just a few hasty bites, and sometimes his greeting to his mother was just an echo from the stairs. His life was like a relentless machine. He thought he was living with a purpose, but in reality, he was just caught in the current of must be better, must be faster, must keep up. Until one day, his mother suddenly passed away. He returned home. The kitchen still smelled of cold rice. The cup his mother used was still on the table. He sat there before the cold, untouched meal, and in that moment, he realized that for so many years, he had never truly eaten a meal with his mother. Even when they sat together, his mind was always chasing work, his phone, his worries. Meanwhile, his mother quietly watched her son in a silence he never noticed. Now that his mother was gone, he deeply understood the value of being present. After the funeral, Mr. Min began to practice sitting still. At first, it was just sitting and breathing. In the silence, he felt uncomfortable. His mind was like a jumping monkey, sometimes remembering old things, sometimes thinking about tomorrow. But then he gradually learned to just observe his breath, to bring his mind back to each exhalation and inhalation. Every morning, he sat quietly on the porch, listening to birds, watching the sunlight on the branches. He started eating slower, chewing more thoroughly, feeling the natural sweetness of the rice grain. One morning, he ate cold rice, but his heart felt warm. He understood that when the mind dwells in the present, all ordinary things become sacred. In the Buddha's teachings, mindfulness is awakened awareness in every moment, not just when sitting in meditation, but in all daily activities, walking, standing, lying, sitting, speaking, laughing, eating, sleeping. All can be meditation if we are truly present. When washing dishes, just know you are washing dishes. When walking, just know you are walking. When inhaling, know you are inhaling. When exhaling, know you are exhaling. Mindfulness helps us return to ourselves, because in that awareness, afflictions have no place to reside. We are not trapped in endless streams of thought about the past, nor frightened by an unknown future. A Zen master once said, "When you drink tea, but your mind is thinking about the past, you have lost that cup of tea. When you walk, but your mind is calculating the future, you have lost that step. Only when you are truly present in the present moment do you truly live." This sounds simple, but is a profound lesson that many people spend their entire lives without practicing. Mindfulness is a path that helps us heal. When we are present in the present, we realize that all sorrows are just waves in the mind. Waves come and go, but the water's surface remains still. If we identify ourselves with the wave, we will constantly rise and fall with every change. But if we realize our true nature is that still lake surface, we will no longer be afraid. Letting go is no longer an effort to suppress, but a deep understanding that all emotions are impermanent. In this rushed life, slowing down is not going against the flow, but returning to one's own true current. When we eat mindfully, each meal becomes a meditation. When we walk mindfully, each step becomes a mark of peace. When we breathe mindfully, each breath becomes a word of gratitude for life. We will see that happiness is not far away, but in this very moment where our mind dwells. Perhaps you are sitting in a small room, listening to the rain outside. Try breathing slowly. Inhale, knowing you are inhaling. Exhale, knowing you are exhaling. Feel each heartbeat, each breath of wind touching your skin. That is life. There's no need for anything grand. Just when the mind knows how to return, we will find a very real sense of peace. In Buddhism, mindfulness is not just a practice for living happily, but also the foundation of wisdom. When we are awake, we clearly see the nature of all things, seeing that suffering and happiness are not separate. They only differ in how we perceive them. When the mind is at peace, the scenery is peaceful, the scenery changes. But if the mind is undisturbed, suffering has no place to cling. Therefore, practicing slowing down doesn't mean abandoning all work or separating from the world, but doing everything with awakened awareness. When we make tea, just make tea. When we work, just work. When we are with loved ones, just listen. Full presence is the most precious gift we can give to others and to ourselves. Mr. Min later no longer complained about work, no longer rushed. Every morning, he still went to work as before, but each day began with a few minutes of sitting still. He no longer tried to chase success, but practiced living with peace. When he ate, he knew he was eating. When he walked, he knew he was walking. And in every breath, he knew that his mother was still there, not in physical form, but in every breath, in every grain of rice, in every moment he lived fully. Slow down to see life more gently. Live mindfully to realize that happiness has never left us. It's just that we've been constantly searching elsewhere. One can spend an entire life searching for peace, but peace, in reality, lies only in this moment, when we breathe, when we know we are breathing. Therefore, live very slowly, very mindfully. When washing dishes, feel the water on your hands. When drinking tea, smell the aroma spreading. When walking, hear your heartbeat and feel the earth beneath your feet. When speaking, let your words carry the energy of understanding. When silent, let that silence become a refuge for the soul. Life doesn't need many grand things. Just when we are truly present, all small things become sacred. Mindfulness adds nothing to our lives, but helps us see fully what we already possess. When the mind is here and now, afflictions have no place to reside. When the mind dwells in every breath, happiness becomes simple and enduring. We just need to stop, take a deep breath, smile, and realize that this present moment is enough. Then no matter how many storms rage outside, our heart will still be at peace. For only when the mind is at peace will life be at peace. There is a Buddhist teaching that everyone finds familiar upon hearing it. But to truly grasp it, one must go through many of life's storms. The Buddha taught that understanding is the foundation of love. Only when we truly understand can our hearts open and love fully. Because of understanding, we don't blame. Because of understanding, we forgive. Because of understanding, we can let go of accumulated anger and resentment in our hearts. People often say that love is giving, but love without understanding is like rain falling on a lotus leaf, touching it and then falling off, never soaking into the earth. In this life, how much suffering, how many misunderstandings, how many wounds in people's hearts actually stem from a lack of mutual understanding. Parents get angry with their children because the children don't listen. Children get angry with their parents because they think their parents don't love them. Spouses resent each other, friends drift apart, siblings grow cold. All because they don't understand the suffering or the desires of the other person. Each person carries within them their own world, their own worry, their own dark corner that no one sees. When we don't understand, we only see with our eyes. But when we understand, we see with our whole heart. Afflictions, many times, are not caused by others hurting us, but by our not understanding enough to see that they are also suffering. When someone speaks loudly, it might be because they are under a lot of pressure. When someone is indifferent, it might be because they are protecting themselves. If we only see through the ego, we will react with anger, hurt, and blame. But if we see with understanding, we will see that no one wants to cause suffering. It's just that they are suffering and don't know how to express it. Understanding that, our heart naturally softens, anger dissipates, and love arises. The story of Tuan is a simple illustration of this. Tuan was a young man living in a working-class family. He loved his mother dearly, but resented his father. From childhood, he always felt his father was rigid, strict, quiet, and cold. Whenever he made a mistake, his father would scold him. Sometimes, even a stern look was enough to make him feel hurt. In Tuan's heart, a belief gradually formed that his father didn't love him. The older he grew, the greater the distance between father and son. Once, when Tuan failed his university entrance exams, he was sad and disappointed. But what hurt him more was his father's cold attitude. His father didn't comfort him, didn't ask about it, just said briefly, "If you don't pass, go to work." Tuan angrily left to work far away, rarely returning home. Many years later, as an adult, on one visit, he saw his father had aged considerably, with gray hair and a hunched back. That night, while eating dinner with his mother, Tuan heard her say, "You know, when you were in high school, your father worked 3 jobs at once to earn money for your extra tuition. During the day, he worked as a construction worker. In the evening, he drove a motorcycle taxi. Sometimes, at night, he had to unload cargo at the dock. He didn't tell you because he feared you would feel inferior. He scolded you only because he worried about you." Tuan was stunned into silence. He looked out into the backyard where his father was sitting alone, a soft sigh echoing in the night. It was the sigh of a father who had devoted his entire life to his son, but didn't know how to express love. In that moment, all resentment in Tuan's heart seemed to vanish. He walked over, hugged his father, and burst into tears. His father was startled, then gently patted his son's shoulder, saying nothing. But in his eyes, there was a deep emotion. From that day on, the small house seemed warmer. Laughter echoed again after years of silence. This story is not just Tuan's. It is the story of countless families. In parent-child relationships, the most lacking thing isn't money, but understanding. Parents sometimes love their children through strictness, while children hope to hear gentle words. The young want to be listened to, while adults only want their children to obey. 2 generations, 2 ways of loving, 2 kinds of suffering. Without understanding, they will forever run parallel and never meet. The Buddha taught that when we understand the suffering of others, we will love them easily. Understanding is not just understanding with the mind, but understanding with a compassionate heart. When we see a person suffering, we will stop blaming, stop wanting revenge, stop wanting to compete. Compassion begins with understanding. Without understanding, love is just a fleeting emotion. Only after understanding can true love arise, and only that love has the power to heal. If we practice mindfulness in listening, we will realize that everyone around us is yearning to be understood. Someone who talks a lot might be afraid of being forgotten. Someone who is quiet might be afraid of being hurt. Someone hot-tempered might have suffered many disadvantages. Practicing listening with a mindful heart means listening without judgment, without interrupting, without reacting. Just listening with full presence and compassion. When someone speaks to us, try to stop, inhale, and exhale gently. Don't rush to refute, don't rush to advise. Simply be present. Listen deeply to understand what pain, what fear lies behind the words. When we listen with our heart, if the other person will feel the energy of comfort. Sometimes, just being understood can halve the suffering. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept called the 4 immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Loving kindness is giving joy. Compassion is relieving suffering. Sympathetic joy is rejoicing with others. And equanimity is letting go. But all four begin with understanding. Without understanding, how can we know what the other person needs to give joy? Without understanding, how can we know what suffering needs to be alleviated? Without understanding, how can we feel sympathetic joy or let go? Therefore, understanding is the root of all love. Understanding is also a form of letting go. When we understand, we no longer cling to our own perspective. We let go of the ego, let go of right and wrong, let go of the need for recognition. When we understand, we look at others with compassionate eyes, seeing that they are also struggling like us, also longing for peace like us. From that, our mind becomes more tolerant, no longer wanting to compete. One thing is, when we understand, everything becomes lighter. Those who once angered us now make us feel love. What once caused us suffering now becomes a lesson. That understanding doesn't come from books, but from a heart that knows how to listen and observe itself. Only when we understand ourselves can we understand others. Practicing understanding is not just looking outward, but also turning inward. Ask yourself every time afflictions arise, what am I suffering from? Am I expecting someone to do as I wish? When you realize the root of anger is from desire, you will find it easier to let go. When you see that others are only acting from their own suffering, you will love them more easily. From understanding, compassion grows. And when compassion grows, the external world also seems to soften. They say, one who lives with understanding and love finds peace everywhere they go. Because when we no longer harbor thoughts of resentment, there's no one left to be angry at, nothing left to suffer over. Try looking back at those around us, parents, spouses, children, friends, colleagues. Is there anyone we've ever been angry with, blamed, or thought was heartless? Look at them with new eyes. Ask your heart, have I ever truly understood them? Perhaps parents don't say it, but the wrinkles on their forehead are marks of years of worry. Perhaps a quiet spouse's eyes still silently follow us whenever we are tired. Perhaps a silent child's heart is filled with many things they don't know how to express. Understanding will lead to love. In mindful breathing, practice listening with your whole heart. Listen to your father's sigh, your mother's soft call, the silence of a loved one. These sounds contain more than 1,000 words. They remind us that love needs to be nurtured daily with understanding. If one day you find yourself still angry with someone, sit down, breathe slowly, and remember the Buddha's teaching. Understanding is the foundation of love. Practice looking deeply to see that that person is also suffering. When you understand, anger dissipates, love arises, and from that, afflictions have no place to reside. Therefore, choose understanding instead of judgment. Choose listening instead of arguing. Choose love instead of blame. Because everyone is carrying a story in their heart that we have never known. When we understand, this world naturally becomes warmer. When we understand, our heart naturally opens wider. And when we understand, we have truly learned to love. Understanding doesn't make us weak. It makes us stronger. For one who understands the suffering of others is one who has overcome their own suffering. The key to happiness sometimes isn't in how much you have, but in how much you can understand and empathize. Therefore, live as one who understands. Listen very deeply, look very closely, love very sincerely. Just like that, life will be light, the mind will be at peace, and happiness will naturally bloom in every ordinary breath of life. Someone once said that forgiveness is the most precious gift humans can give each other, and also the lightest gift we can give ourselves. Forgiveness is not forgetting, but letting go. Forgiveness is not weakness, but the courage to face hurt, look deeply into pain, and choose to move forward in peace. In this life, who hasn't been hurt? Who hasn't felt resentment, betrayal, or disappointment? But if we cling to hatred in our hearts, we are no different from someone holding a hot coal, thinking they can throw it at someone else, forgetting that they are the one getting burned. There are those who live their entire lives in resentment over a single word, an action, a betrayal. They let their minds be burdened by anger for years, and gradually, joy also closes off. The more the mind resents, the more the face withers, the voice becomes heavy, the body sickens. Because when we hate someone, we are giving them a dwelling place in our mind day after day. The Buddha once taught that one who clings to hatred is like one who drinks poison and hopes others die. Forgiveness is not because the other person deserves to be forgiven, but because we deserve peace. Forgiveness is a door that opens for the soul to escape the prison of the past. It is a freedom that no one can take away but ourselves. Someone asked, "How can I forgive someone who hurt me? How can I forget what made me cry?" In reality, forgiveness is a matter of the heart, not the mind. We don't need to try to forget. We just need to not let that pain control the present. When someone chooses to let go of hatred, it doesn't mean they forget the truth, but that they accept it as part of the journey of growth. Like a lotus flower that blooms from mud, but carries no trace of its smell. Forgiveness is the lotus blooming amidst the mud of hatred, the fragrance of compassion, nurtured by understanding. The Lin. An Buddhist channel recalls a small story from a rural market. There was a woman named Ms. Tu who lived simply, running a small business to raise her 2 children. That year, she was deceived by a close friend, losing almost all her savings. It was decades of hard work. The other person left for a distant place, leaving her in bitterness and resentment. Anyone who met her saw her sad eyes. Every time the old story was mentioned, she would sigh. "I don't understand how she could do that to someone who was like a sister to her." That resentment ate deep into her heart, making meals tasteless and sleep restless. Then time passed. Her children grew up, and the other person returned, poor and seriously ill. Everyone advised Ms. Tu to stay away, not to get involved. But surprisingly, Ms. Tu quietly brought some rice and money to visit. The other person burst into tears, held her hand speechless. Ms. Tu just gently smiled. "The past is past. Rest assured, sister." That day, people saw her walk back, her steps slow, her face light, as if she had just laid down a burden of many years. Many wondered why she could do that. She said that if she kept clinging to resentment, she would be the one who suffered most. When she saw the other person sick and suffering, she suddenly felt compassion rather than anger, because she understood that whoever creates karma must bear its consequences. She didn't need to add more hatred. Forgiveness is not ignoring justice, but allowing karma to unfold according to the law of cause and effect. From that day on, Ms. Tu was healthier, brighter. People said she seemed to have become younger, perhaps because when she could let go of hatred, her mind was no longer burdened, and her body also became lighter. The Buddha once taught about the compassionate mind as a flame that illuminates the darkness of ignorance. When the heart is full of hatred, we are obscured by that darkness. Only the light of understanding and compassion can dispel it. Forgiveness is an expression of the compassionate mind. No one can truly be compassionate if their heart still holds resentment. Those who study Buddhism do not just chant sutras or sit in meditation. They learn to look at everyone with eyes of understanding and love. When we understand that the one who hurts us is also suffering, we can love them instead of resenting them. Someone who speaks cruel words does so because they are filled with suffering. Someone who betrays does so because they lack the wisdom to live honestly. If we can see the suffering within them, we will no longer resent them. Understanding is the foundation of love, and love is the path to forgiveness. Someone once asked, "Does forgiveness make us weak?" The answer is no. Forgiveness is an expression of inner strength, a victory for one who knows self-mastery. The weak are easily angered, easily resentful, but the strong know how to smile and move forward. Forgiveness does not mean letting others walk all over us, but not giving them the power to control our minds. When we cling to hatred, they are still living in our hearts, controlling our moods, stealing our peace. But when we forgive, they no longer have a place to reside. Forgiving them, we are also liberating ourselves. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone does it cease." This is an eternal law. Therefore, forgiveness is not just an action, but a spiritual practice. Each time we let go of resentment, we plant a seed of compassion in our hearts. Each time we stop a word of blame, we are nurturing peace for ourselves. The more we practice, the brighter our minds become. And at some point, we will realize that no one can truly hurt us. Only we allow that hurt to remain. If today someone hurts you, try looking at them with different eyes. Perhaps they are afraid, struggling in suffering without knowing how to express it. Perhaps they have never been loved enough to know how to love others. If we understand enough, we will not blame. When the heart no longer resents, we will find this world gentler. The bird song will be softer, the wind warmer. Forgiveness does not make us lose justice, but makes us whole. Because the heart is no longer entangled, the mind is naturally like a white cloud in the sky. Practicing forgiveness is not easy, but every day we can start with small things. Forgive someone who inadvertently annoyed us in a conversation. Forgive someone who didn't keep a promise. Forgive ourselves for past mistakes. Each time, the mind becomes a little lighter. Forgiveness is a long road, but each small step brings peace. Just as drops of water, constantly falling, can smooth a stone, constant compassion can wear away hatred. Finally, when we look back at our lives, we will see that old pains are just like past rains. The grass still grows, the sky is still clear, and we are still living more lightly. Hatred only makes us heavy, but forgiveness helps us fly. A heart that knows how to forgive is a place where suffering no longer resides. For when the heart is at peace, life is also at peace. There are days when we feel like the whole world has turned its back on us. Everything seems to fall apart, faith is drained, and only emptiness remains in our hearts. But you know, sometimes it's precisely the most painful days that become turning points for a person's spiritual journey. The Buddha once taught that suffering is the greatest teacher. It sounds simple, but you have to go through a storm, have to taste the deepest brokenness to understand how profound that teaching is. Everyone in life will face loss. Some lose loved ones, some lose faith, some lose the very meaning of life. But what's important is not what we lose, but what we learn from that loss. When a storm passes, it can sweep away roofs and lay fields bare. But in the end, the earth is reborn, trees sprout, flowers bloom. Humans are the same. If we know how to rise up, how to transform suffering, then from where the wounds once were, the flowers of wisdom and compassion will bloom. In Buddhism, suffering is not an enemy. Suffering is a patient teacher, a mirror that reflects our own minds. When we suffer, we realize that we still cling, still desire, still resent. Suffering helps us realize that we still crave, still want life to go our way. But life is inherently impermanent. Who can hold on to anything forever? When we escape pain, we miss an opportunity to understand ourselves. Only when we dare to sit still and look deeply into suffering can we pass through it with the light of understanding. The story of Ms. Han is a simple yet poignant illustration. She once had a happy small family, a gentle husband, and an obedient daughter. But then a sudden traffic accident took away her beloved husband. The day she said goodbye to her husband, she collapsed, as if broken. The small house became cold. Every evening, as dusk fell, she would sit looking at her husband's shirt hanging in the closet, tears streaming endlessly. Some nights, she would cry out into the wind, wondering why this happened to her. Her mind was like a scorched field after a drought, leaving only ashes and loneliness. Then one morning, as she walked through a small alley, she heard the distant sound of the temple bell. The bell seemed to strike the depths of her heart, making her stop. For a moment, she felt her heart soften. She paused at the temple gate, listening to the old monk's sermon. Suffering is the greatest teacher. Without suffering, humans would never learn how to love and let go. Those words were like a small ray of light flickering in the darkness that enveloped her life. From that day on, she began to change. She went to the temple every day, quietly chanted a sutra, recited the Buddha's name, and listened to Dharma talks. Each sutra, each recitation, was like cool water washing away the dust in her soul. Time passed. The pain was still there, but she was no longer afraid. She began to understand that suffering does not come to destroy us, but as a visitor to help us awaken. She opened her heart to care for lonely elderly people, sharing food with the poor. In their eyes, she recognized gratitude, a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. It was in giving that she found herself healing. A year later, people saw that Ms. Han was still the same woman, still with a gentle face. But in her eyes, there was a different light, the light of peace. From Ms. Han's story, we can understand that suffering does not come to make us fall, but to help us grow in wisdom. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "As a lotus born in the mud grows and blooms without being defiled by the mud, so the wise live in the world, unattached to its defilements. If there were no mud, the lotus could not bloom. If there were no suffering, how could we learn to love truly? Therefore, when life hands us suffering, do not rush to complain. See it as an invitation to return to ourselves. Someone once said, "When you cannot change the wind, learn to adjust your sails." Life is not always favorable, just as the sea is not always calm. But one who knows how to control the sails will not fear the storm. Similarly, a wise person will not fear suffering. They understand that suffering is only a part of the journey, and it is from there that their mind becomes more steadfast. When we know how to adjust the sails of our mind, we will navigate through all storms and still keep our direction. Many of us have a habit of avoiding suffering. When we encounter sadness, we try to forget it with temporary pleasures, with busyness, by filling the emptiness in our hearts. But do you realize that the more we avoid suffering, the more it clings to us? It doesn't disappear, but just lies deeper in the mind, waiting for another opportunity to re-emerge. The only way to liberate ourselves is to confront it. It's like having a thorn pricked into you. You can't just bandage the outside. You have to pull the thorn out. Suffering is the same. You must look at it directly, identify it, understand it, then you can let it go. When facing suffering, the first thing we need is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us see things clearly, without being swept away by emotions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What can I learn from this?" This change in the way we ask questions opens up a new path. When our mind shifts, suffering also transforms into a teacher. Suffering will then be just a gentle lesson, no longer a crushing burden. Some say that no pain is meaningless if we learn from it. This saying is truly aligned with the spirit of the Buddha's teachings. In life, there are times when we gain, times when we lose, times when we are happy, times when we are lonely. But if we can keep our minds at peace, then no matter how circumstances change, we remain as firm as a mountain. For true happiness is not about how much we have, but about how much we understand. Try to think. When we suffer from losing a loved one, it's because we loved them too much and didn't want to part. But in impermanence, nothing lasts forever. Understanding that, we will learn to love fully while we can and let go gently when the time comes to leave. That is the wisdom of letting go. When we know how to let go, we are no longer bound by what is lost. When we know how to accept, we find freedom. The Buddha taught that in suffering, one can find nirvana. This is not a word of comfort, but the truth of an awakened person. For nirvana is not in a distant place, but right within our minds. When we know how to let go of attachment, how to see everything with a compassionate heart, when suffering comes, breathe deeply, listen to your heart, recite the Buddha's name. Each recitation is a step of return. Each mindful breath is a way we are embracing ourselves. No one in this life can avoid suffering. But suffering does not mean unhappiness. Unhappiness only comes when we refuse to learn from suffering. One who knows how to transform will find light even in darkness. Like Miss Han. When she lost her loved one, she thought she had lost everything. But when she opened her heart, she found a broader love for life, for people, for herself. So, dear friend, if today you are sad, you are hurting, believe that this suffering will also pass. Everything changes. No rain lasts forever. And after the storm, flowers still bloom. Learn to adjust the sails of your mind so that no matter which way the wind changes, you can still reach the shore of peace. When we understand and accept suffering, suffering will dissipate like morning mist in the morning sun. Remember that there is no path to happiness that is without the shadow of suffering. It is through suffering that we learn to value peace. It is through tears that we understand the value of a smile. Each time we suffer is each time we are reborn in our minds. And when the mind has learned to be at peace amidst the storm, then no matter how life changes, we will still smile and say, "Welcome, suffering. For I know you are an old friend coming to teach me a new lesson about tolerance and wisdom." Suffering will pass, but wisdom and compassion remain. Let go of what you don't need to hold. Forgive what you cannot change, and smile at yourself. When your mind is at peace, and the world around you will also be at peace. For ultimately, all happiness originates from within the mind. And when we know how to live with a peaceful mind, then even amidst a storm, flowers still bloom, and the heart remains at peace. Someone once said that there are 2 words in life more precious than gold: knowing enough. Indeed, in the countless sufferings of humanity, most stem from bottomless greed. Those who have little want more. Those who have much want even more. The more we have, the more we fear losing. The tighter we cling, the more restless our minds become. The Buddha taught, contentment is the greatest wealth. One who knows enough, even lying on a mat of grass, sees life as blooming flowers. But one who does not know enough, even living in a luxurious mansion, still feels lacking, still suffers, still feels weary. Happiness is actually not far away. It lies right within the mind that knows how to stop, how to be satisfied, how to be at peace with what it has. But people often seek happiness ahead, while forgetting that peace is right under their feet. Sometimes we run our entire lives searching for something that, if we just stopped, we would have found present in every breath, every smile, every simple meal with loved ones. The ancients said, enough food, enough clothes, a peaceful mind, that is a blessing. Yet, how many people in this modern era are still restless, still feeling deprived amidst abundance? Not because they are poor, but because they don't feel they have enough. The hunger for material things can be filled with a bowl of rice, but the hunger of the mind cannot be filled by anything if we don't learn contentment. There is a small story that leaves listeners silent. In the Mekong Delta, there was a farmer named Sao. He lived with his wife and 2 children in a small house by the rice fields. His life was simple. He went to the fields in the morning and returned home in the evening. His clothes were patched and worn. His jacket was frayed at the shoulders, his hands calloused from plowing. But in his heart, he always carried a slight sadness. Every time he passed his neighbor's house, where they had just bought a harvester, or had a house with bright red tiles, his heart would sink. He would ask himself, why is my life always so toilsome? Why am I not rich like them? One afternoon, as he rested by the field, he heard the distant sound of the temple bell. The bell was like a breeze across the fields, clear and pure, making his heart strangely still. He stopped what he was doing and listened. Then something urged him. He walked to the nearby temple. In the temple yard, the old monk sat under a Bodhi tree, his eyes gentle. Mr. Sao bowed his head and confided that he worked constantly, yet remained poor. Seeing others prosper made him feel disheartened. The monk smiled and slowly said, "Son, you have enough food, enough clothes. You are healthy. You have a home to return to. Isn't that a blessing? People suffer because they keep chasing what they don't have, forgetting to be grateful for what they do have. Contentment is happiness, my son. Knowing enough brings joy." That evening, Mr. Sao returned home. The small house was still old. The oil lamp light still flickered yellow. His patched jacket still on his shoulders. But when he saw his wife cooking, heard his children's laughter, smelled the familiar kitchen smoke, his heart suddenly felt strangely warm. He suddenly understood the monk's words. He smiled and slowly said to his wife, "Enough food, enough clothes. Children's laughter is enough. That is a blessing." From then on, Mr. Sao no longer compared, no longer worried. Every day he went to the fields. He greeted the sun with a smile. The villagers said, "We don't know why Mr. Sao is poor, but always happy." But only he knew that since he understood the two words, knowing enough, he had become the richest person in the world. This small story contains a great truth of life. Happiness is not about having much or little, but about whether the mind knows enough. A person can live in a thatched hut, eat plain rice, but if their mind knows enough, they're still happy. Conversely, a person with gold and jewels, whose greed knows no bounds, still suffers. Because the more the mind wants, the more it fears losing. The more it fears losing, the more restless it becomes. That is the vicious cycle of afflictions that only wisdom can break. In Buddhist teachings, contentment is the foundation of a peaceful life. Try means to know. Tuk means enough. Knowing enough means knowing when to stop, knowing how to be grateful for what one has. The Buddha taught that one who knows enough finds peace even lying on the ground. One who does not know enough, even in heaven, is not satisfied. These words are not just for practitioners, but a reminder for all of us who are constantly searching in the currents of life. When we know enough, the mind will be less restless. When the mind is calm, we will see how simple life is. A bowl of plain white rice can taste as delicious as a feast. An ordinary morning can be a blessing. A loved one's smile is enough to warm the whole day. Conversely, one who does not know enough, no matter how far they go, still feels lacking. They are like someone drinking seawater. The more they drink, the thirstier they become. If you pay attention, you will see that contented people usually have gentle faces and light-hearted demeanors. They do not contend, do not compete, do not complain. They know that life is impermanent. What comes will be lost. so they cherish what is in their hands. Conversely, discontented people often live in anxiety and weariness. They always look at others, compare themselves, and thus lose their own joy. The Buddha taught that the mind is the root of all phenomena. This means that suffering or happiness comes not from circumstances, but from the mind. Circumstances may be the same, but the peaceful person finds happiness, while the anxious person finds unrest. Looking at the same flower garden, the contented person sees beautiful blooms. The greedy person thinks these flowers are not vibrant enough. Eating the same meal, the grateful person finds it delicious. The comparative person finds it bland. Walking the same path, the person who knows when to stop enjoys the scenery. The person who only wants to reach the destination sees nothing but fatigue. Knowing enough does not mean not striving, not making an effort. Knowing enough is knowing the stopping point of greed. Striving is good, but if striving is to chase insatiable ambition to satisfy the ego, sooner or later, one will burn oneself in the fire of desire. But if striving is done with awakened awareness, with understanding, with a grateful heart, then no matter the outcome, we will still be at peace. When we learn contentment, life will naturally become lighter. We don't need much to be happy. A warm cup of tea, a bird song, an afternoon watching the sun fall across the porch. All can be happiness. We just need to stop the mind, listen, and smile. The contented person does not compare gains and losses, nor is bothered by praise or criticism. They understand that gaining is also due to karmic connection, and losing is also due to karmic connection. When they have, they are happy. When they lose, they let go. They are like a still lake surface. Even if the wind comes, it only ripples gently, then becomes clear again. In contrast, the discontented person is like a turbulent sea, with waves and storms rising from very small things. Scriptures relate that the Buddha once told the bhikkhus that one who is content, even with just robes and a bowl of rice, feels happier than kings. Why? Because the contented person is not controlled by greed. They are free in life, not bound by material possessions. But the discontented person, even with piles of gold and silver, is like a hungry person at a feast, eating endlessly, yet never satisfied. Today, we live in an era of convenience, with more material abundance than before, yet our minds are poorer. We have phones, cars, tall buildings, but we have lost cozy meals, lost simple stories, lost even peaceful sleep. Because we always feel lacking, always want more, and the more we want, the more tired we become. If one day you feel weary, try sitting still, breathing deeply, and asking yourself, am I enough today? If you have food, water, someone to love, a place to return to, then please smile. You have more than millions of people in the world. So why do we still complain about lacking, still blame life for being unfair? In reality, life has never been unfair. It's just that our minds haven't known enough. Practicing contentment is not difficult. Just start with small things. Thank today's meal. Thank your legs that can still walk. Thank your breath that is still steady. Thank your loved ones who are still by your side. When we are grateful, we naturally feel enough. And when we feel enough, the mind will be at peace. A person may not have everything, but if their heart holds peace, they have everything. But one who has the whole world, but whose mind is not at peace, is still poor, even on the highest peak. Therefore, learn to look at life with eyes of contentment. Every morning when you wake up, tell yourself, "Today, I am enough." That simple sentence can change an entire day, even an entire life. For ultimately, happiness is not about achieving a lot, but about knowing how to cherish what you have. When you sit with loved ones, hear children's laughter, or simply smell the aroma of a hot cup of tea, realize that is happiness. Don't wait until you lose it to regret it. Contentment is not just a moral lesson, but an art of living. The contented person lives light as the wind, peaceful as clouds, not clinging to gain or loss, not fearing change. They don't need to seek happiness because they are happiness itself. Remember the Buddha's teaching. Contentment is the greatest wealth. Knowing enough brings joy. Knowing enough brings peace. When the mind has known enough, then no matter the circumstances, we still see life as blooming flowers, as the rising sun, as the distant sound of the temple bell on a quiet afternoon. And then we will understand that happiness has never been far away. It is still here, in every contented breath, in every grateful moment, in our own peaceful heart. There is a saying that seems simple, but contains a profound philosophy of life. Less is more. In this life, sometimes we don't need to have too much to be happy. Just knowing enough, knowing when to stop, knowing how to let go, is enough for the heart to be at peace. The Buddha once taught that the contented person is the richest. In an era where everything rushes like big waves, people need even more to learn to return to simplicity, to find themselves amidst the noise and chaos. Because the more we have, the more tired we become. The more we try to hold on, the more we worry. Only when we let go can the mind find a place to rest. When we look back at life, we will see that most suffering comes not from external sources, but from inner greed and attachment. We hold on to too much, not just material things, but also memories, words, and past wounds. Sometimes it's just an old item, a past memory, a word spoken long ago. But we keep holding on to them in our hearts, and these very things prevent us from breathing lightly. We live in a cramped house, but in reality, the house of our mind is even more cramped because it contains too many old, unnecessary things that we are still unwilling to discard. People fear emptiness, but don't know that only when empty can the heart make room for peace. Cleaning is not just a task for the hands, but for the soul. When we clean our house, we are learning to clean the dusty corners of our minds. Every item we discard is an attachment that is let go of. Each time we clean a corner, we are cleaning a long-standing affliction in our heart. Someone said, "A clean house is cool. A clean mind is peaceful." That is indeed true. A tidy house makes us breathe easier. A tidy soul makes us happy. A simple life is not about lacking, but about knowing what to keep and having the courage to discard what should be let go of. I remember a story about old Mr. Ba at the village entrance. He lived alone in an old house filled with objects that had been with him for decades. Every corner of the room held a memory. The wooden cabinet of his deceased wife, the wool sweater his daughter gave him when she was young, the cracked porcelain cups he still kept like treasures. Anyone who advised him to clean up, he would just smile and say, "Everything has memories. How can I discard it?" But the more he held on to, the more cramped his house became. He sat in a room where light could no longer enter. Dust covered every item, just as sorrow covered his old age. One day, an old friend visited, saw the situation, and said, "Mr. Ba, some things we hold on to. We're holding on to sorrow. Try giving a little away." Mr. Ba was stunned into silence. That day, he gathered all his courage and began to clean. As he picked up each item, he paused, remembered the past, then softly said, "Enough, enough." He gave away usable items to neighbors and discarded the old, broken ones. After cleaning, he sat in the empty room, his heart much lighter. He said, "I thought letting go meant losing." But it turned out letting go brought peace. From that day on, the room welcomed sunlight, and his old heart also welcomed peace. Mr. Ba's story makes us reflect on ourselves. Each of us has such a wooden cabinet full of memories. Not just objects, but also memories, resentments, old relationships, things we haven't been able to forgive. We are afraid that if we let them go, we will lose them. But in reality, only when we let them go can we receive. Because the mind is like a house. The more cramped, the more stifling, the harder it is to breathe. Only when cleaned can light enter. Only when we let go can happiness find its way in. The Buddha taught that the wise clearly see impermanence, thus they do not cling. Everything in this life changes. Nothing lasts forever. What we try to hold on to today may have no value tomorrow. Affection, fame, money, material possessions, all are like dust. The more we try to hold on, the easier they slip. Just like water in the palm of your hand, the tighter you grasp, the more water flows out. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is returning everything to its rightful place. When we know how to let go, our heart is no longer dragged along by small matters, and then we truly live freely. Happiness is actually very simple. It is not found in grand things, but in every moment we feel light-hearted, when we can smile at a peaceful morning, when we eat a simple meal and find it delicious, when we can forgive those who hurt us, when we stop thinking too much. That is when happiness has returned. Simplicity does not mean lacking, but knowing what is truly important. Just like a gardener who wants a tree to flourish must prune dry leaves and cut tangled branches so that the sap flows to the main trunk. The human mind is the same. To be at peace, one must know how to cut back, practice letting go. Not just cleaning the house, but cleaning the mind. We can start with small things, speak fewer useless words to hear our hearts more clearly, worry less about the future to live fully in the present, fear less. For this life is impermanent. Everyone passes through it. Let go of clinging to our own opinions to understand others better. Each time we reduce a little, our heart becomes a little lighter. Each day we let go of a thought is a day we move closer to peace. Life is actually very short. We keep accumulating and holding on, and then when we look back, it turns out the most precious thing is peace. Not a big house, but a house filled with laughter. Not many possessions, but a heart unburdened. Some people spend their entire lives searching for peace, but peace is not far away. It is right in our breath when we know how to stop. It is in the early morning tea, in the late afternoon sunlight. In the moment, we need nothing more. A person can live simply, yet be complete. That is when they understand that the true value of life lies not in quantity, but in the quality of each moment. Having little but enough to use, enough to live, enough to love, enough to understand. That is true wealth. The Buddha once said, "The contented person is the richest." When we live with a contented mind, everything becomes complete. Conversely, if the heart is not content, even with the whole world, we still feel empty. Reducing is not a loss, but a way to renew oneself. When we discard something, we are making room for something new to arrive. Just as a room, when cleaned, light naturally finds its way in, and wind naturally rushes in. Life is the same. Just let go of greed, anger, and delusion, and peace will naturally appear. One who knows how to let go is one who knows how to live. One who knows simplicity is one who has deeply understood happiness. Perhaps the lesson left by old Mr. Ba is not just in the empty wooden cabinet, but in his serene smile after cleaning. That is the smile of one who knows enough, knows how to let go, knows how to live lightly. If each of us can learn that, then every day can begin again, calm and fresh like the morning sun. Try looking around you. How many things are you holding on to that you don't really need? How many things are you thinking about that only make your heart more troubled? If possible, today, try cleaning a drawer, discarding a few old items, or cleaning a corner of your mind, letting go of a past matter. Then you will find your heart brighter, lighter. Simplicity is the art of living. Less of one thing means more peace. Less of one affliction means one more day of peace. Less burden means more tranquility. When the mind is simple, life will naturally be serene. And that is true happiness. Happiness is in the very small things. Someone once said, "If you wake up every day with gratitude, that day cannot be a bad day." That saying seems simple, but contains a boundless healing power. Amidst worries, amidst things not going our way, if only we know how to stop and silently say, "Thank you," our heart will naturally soften. Gratitude is the seed of happiness, a miraculous medicine that melts the cold layers of anger, blame, and resentment. A person may not be wealthy, not have status, but if their heart is always grateful, they are still the happiest person. Because gratitude is the root of peace, the foundation of compassion, the light that illuminates the mind. Many suffer not from lack, but from forgetting. Forgetting that they have so many precious things. Forgetting that they have been loved. Forgetting that every meal, every drop of water, every breath is a blessing. When we forget, the heart complains. When we complain, blessings diminish. Sometimes we wake up in our own home, but think about what we don't yet have. We eat a delicious meal, but remember dishes we haven't tasted. We live in the embrace of loved ones, but dream of another place. It is precisely because of this that no matter how much we have, our heart still feels empty. The Buddha taught that the grateful person is the one who knows how to live. For only with gratitude can we see the miraculousness in every moment of life. Gratitude is not just words, but a state of mind. It's when we look at life with gentle eyes. It's when we stop blaming others, stop blaming life, but just quietly smile at what is. Gratitude doesn't need to wait for something grand, but is felt in every small detail around us. A cool glass of water on a hot noon, a caring word when sad, a peaceful sleep after a long day. All are blessings. When we are grateful, everything around us becomes more beautiful. When we forget to be grateful, good things also become ordinary. The Lin, and Buddhist channel, once met a woman named Mai, who used to complain a lot. Every morning when she woke up, she would think about what made her tired. Stressful work, a quiet husband, a crying toddler, a life full of worries. Every day, she lived as if chasing something yet to come, forgetting that what she had was what others were wishing for. Once in a meditation class, she heard the teacher say, "Before sleeping, try to recall 3 things you are grateful for today. They can be small, but be sincere." At first, she found it difficult because her mind was used to seeing lack, not yet used to seeing good. But then she started practicing. The first night she wrote, "Thank you, Mother, for still being with me. Thank you for today's meal. Thank you to the person who smiled at me." Just 3 short sentences, but they made her heart settle. She realized that amidst all the chaos, she still had many things to be grateful for. Day by day, she maintained that habit. Every evening before going to bed, she would write down 3 things she was grateful for. Sometimes it was, "Thank you for not getting angry when my child spilled rice." Sometimes it was, "Thank you for the afternoon rain that cooled my heart." Sometimes it was, "Thank you to the person who listened to me speak." Gradually, she found life changing. Everything around her seemed gentler. The people at home were more approachable, and she felt less tired. One day she said, "It turns out happiness isn't when you have more, but when you feel you have enough." From someone who complained often, she became someone who often smiled. From someone who blamed often, she became someone who was grateful. That is the magic of gratitude. Gentle, yet profound. Silent, yet powerful. According to the spirit of Buddhist teachings, gratitude is the foundation of all good deeds. One who is grateful to their parents is filial. One who is grateful to the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, is oriented towards goodness. One who is grateful to all sentient beings knows how to nurture a compassionate heart. The Buddha taught that a grateful mind is a noble mind because in it there is no attachment, no resentment, only the recognition of the connection between us and all things. Every grain of rice we eat, every drop of water we drink, carries the effort of countless people. Farmers who plant, water carriers, cooks, cleaners, all contribute to our meals. When we see that, we naturally no longer dare to waste, no longer dare to complain. Because we understand that every good thing we receive is a gift from life. In Buddhism, there is a saying, "Gratitude and repayment of kindness." Gratitude doesn't stop at words, but must be expressed through actions. When we are truly grateful to our parents, we will live in a way that puts their minds at ease. When we are grateful to the triple gem, we will diligently practice, maintaining a good mind. When we are grateful to all sentient beings, we will not harm anyone, no matter how small. Thus, Gratitude is not just an emotion, but also a path of transformation. Because every time we are grateful, we are awakening the good mind within ourselves. And when the good mind is awakened, afflictions naturally dissipate. A grateful person rarely complains because they see blessings in every breath. When inhaling, they're grateful to be alive. When exhaling, they're grateful to let go. When walking on the road, they're grateful for still having legs. When seeing light, they're grateful for still having eyes. Every moment is a miracle. It's just that we are often too busy to notice. Gratitude doesn't require doing anything grand. Just return to reality. Cherish what you have. Then you are truly living, not just existing. Some people only understand the value of gratitude after experiencing suffering. When sick, we value health. When we lose, we value family. When lonely, we value handshakes, hugs, and smiles. But the wise are those who don't wait until it's lost to be grateful. They are grateful right now, while they still have it, because they understand that everything in life is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Gratitude is a way to retain blessings, a way to beautify the present. When the mind is grateful, everything feels complete. If every night before sleeping, we spend a few minutes recalling 3 things we are grateful for, life will change. It might start as a small habit, but gradually it becomes a mirror illuminating the soul. We begin to look at life with the eyes of a grateful person and see that everything is precious. When we encounter sadness, we are grateful because it teaches us patience. When misunderstood by others, we are grateful because it helps us learn to let go of the ego. When we meet good people, we are grateful because they helped us believe in human kindness. Thus, every day is a lesson. Every person is a teacher, and every moment is a gift. The grateful person will never find life meaningless, for they see meaning even in the most ordinary things. When washing dishes, they are grateful for having food. When washing clothes, they are grateful for having clothes. When tired, they are grateful for being able to rest. When crying, they are grateful for still having a heart that feels. Because of this, they live lightly, without comparing, without competing. Gratitude makes people humble, gentle, and tranquil. Try it tonight before going to bed. Gently close your eyes and ask yourself, what am I grateful for today? It could be someone who helped you, a word that made you happy, or simply the fact that you are still able to breathe in peace. Write down those 3 things, or say them silently in your heart, then repeat this every day. Gradually, you will find your mind changing. Things will no longer be gloomy. The people around you will also become more endearing, and you yourself will become gentler. Because when the mind is grateful, positive energy will spread. One with gratitude carries light wherever they go. They don't need to say much. Just being present can make others feel warm-hearted. The most miraculous thing in this life is not how many things we achieve, but how many things we have to be grateful for. Every person, every object, every circumstance is a karmic connection. Having connections is having blessings. Meeting each other, walking together for a while, then parting ways is also a kindness. Be grateful for having met, having loved, having learned, having let go. Be grateful even for difficulties, for they are what make us grow. When we are grateful, there is nothing left to blame, for everything carries its own meaning. When the mind is filled with gratitude, afflictions have no place to reside, and suffering also turns into a gentle breeze. Please remember that happiness is not a destination, but the path we walk with gratitude. Every step, every smile, every present moment, all are precious. The grateful person is always happy because they see blessings in every breath. When the mind is grateful, life becomes gentle. When the heart is grateful, everything becomes fruitful. And when we are grateful, we are living as fully as possible in every moment of the present, in peace, in stillness, and in boundless compassion. There are long nights when we can only embrace and comfort ourselves. In the quiet space of the room, there's only the ticking of the clock, the steady rhythm of breathing in the chest. And sometimes an inner voice gently echoes like a question. Am I still okay? Loneliness is probably something everyone experiences in life, but not everyone knows that in those very empty moments, we have the closest opportunity to connect with ourselves. Loneliness is not an enemy. Loneliness is a mirror for us to clearly see the image of our own mind after days of constantly chasing others, chasing praise and criticism, chasing life's commotions. Many people fear loneliness as they fear darkness, because they think that when no one is by their side, it means they are abandoned. But in reality, loneliness is just a quiet space that life grants us to rest, to return, to realize that for so long we have forgotten someone, ourselves. People often say that happiness is having someone accompany you. But the Buddha taught that true peace doesn't come from external sources, but arises from an inner stillness. If our mind is still wavering, even with 1,000 people around, we still feel empty. If our mind is at peace, even alone, we still feel complete. Therefore, loneliness is not suffering if we know how to use it to reflect upon and understand ourselves. There was a woman named Hong. She once had a home full of laughter. Every afternoon, there was her child's call of Mom, the smell of cooked rice, the small radio playing familiar news. But then one day, her child went away to study. The small house, once vibrant, suddenly felt emptier, not because its size increased, but because laughter was absent. Ms. Hong was unused to that silence. In the evening, she sat in the living room, hearing only the ticking of the clock and the wind outside the door. At first, she felt heavy-hearted, sad, as if life had lost its meaning. One day, while cleaning, she heard the distant sound of the temple bell. The bell lingered softly like morning mist, but touched deep into her heart. She stood still and then asked herself, why don't I try sitting still and listening to the bell as if listening to my own heart? So from that day on, every evening she would turn off the TV, turn off the big lights, light only a small candle, and sit still. At first, she felt uncomfortable. In just a few minutes, her mind was full of thoughts, but she kept trying to breathe slowly, inhaling and exhaling. Every time the temple bell rang, she would smile as if greeting an old friend. Then, day by day, something miraculous happened. She no longer feared silence. In fact, she longed for it. In the quiet, her heart felt less troubled. Old, sad memories gradually dissipated like smoke. she saw more clearly the small things around her. The sound of rain on the tiled roof, the faint aroma of hot tea, and even the sound of her own footsteps in the night became endearing. Loneliness was no longer a fear, but became a gentle friend that helped her realize happiness had never left. It's just that she was too busy to look back. Ms. Hong's story is an image of many of us. When we lose loved ones, when our children grow up, when relationships break, when jobs change, we often fall into an empty space and feel lost. But instead of running away, try sitting down, being silent, and looking back. When we stop, we realize that loneliness is also a gift that life sends us to learn to love ourselves, to learn to slow down, and to learn to listen to the true voice of our own minds. In Buddhism, the world-honored one once taught that one is one's own island, one's own refuge, relying on no other. This teaching is simple, yet profound. For when we understand that nothing in life lasts forever, the only thing that can reside peacefully is the mind. Relying on the mind is relying on the most stable place. When the mind is at peace, the world is also at peace. When the mind stirs, all phenomena stir. Therefore, instead of seeking someone to alleviate loneliness, return to listening to your breath, feeling the rhythm of life in every moment. Sit still. Breathe gently. Just 3 minutes a day. 3 minutes to look back at yourself, to ask yourself, is my heart at peace today? If the answer is no, don't blame yourself. Just smile and continue breathing. Breathe to feel alive. Breathe to feel the opportunity to change. And as the mind gradually settles, you will realize that loneliness is just a state of mind that comes and goes like the wind. When we don't hold on to it, it naturally becomes light. Everyone in life goes through moments when no one understands. No one accompanies them. Some choose to seek out others. Some choose to bury themselves in work. Some choose to complain. But perhaps the most precious choice is to sit with oneself. Loneliness, if understood, is a door opening to the deep inner self. There, we no longer feel small in the world, but feel like a part of vast life. Imagine on a bright, moonlit night, you sit by the window, breathing gently, feeling the moonlight filtering through the leaves. No phone, no noise, just you and your breath. At that moment, loneliness is no longer frightening, but becomes serenity. It is in that moment that we understand the saying, peace doesn't come from others, but from an awakened inner self. Those who practice meditation know that when we sit still, the mind gradually brightens. At first, it is dispersed, then still, then serene. In that peace, there is no longer a distinction between oneself and the world. Then loneliness melts away. Only connection remains. Connection with oneself, with heaven and earth, with all living beings. The Buddha called that the awakened mind, a mind that knows clearly without attachment. One day, when you feel empty, try placing your hand on your chest, closing your eyes, and softly saying, I am here with myself. Just one sentence can make your heart feel warm. Because when we return, when we are truly present with ourselves, all loneliness dissipates. For in reality, we are never alone. In every breath, there is life. In every step, there is the earth supporting us. In every heartbeat, the universe harmonizes. Loneliness is only when our mind loses itself. But when it returns, even alone, we feel complete. Therefore, if today you are feeling lonely, please don't be afraid. See it as a friend reminding you to rest, sit still for a moment, breathe slowly for a moment, and smile. Happiness is not far away. It is still here in every moment we are awake. We just need to know how to return. And loneliness will transform into peace. And in that peace, we will see that, it turns out, we ourselves are the most solid refuge. Because once the mind is at peace, whether amidst a bustling crowd or an empty room, whether hearing people talk and laugh, or just the ticking of a clock, we still feel life gently flowing. At that point, we no longer fear loneliness, but are grateful for it. Just as we are grateful for the temple bell in Ms. Hong's story. The bell awakened a soul, helping her realize the most precious thing she had forgotten for so many years, the dwelling of peace within one's own mind. And once we can sit peacefully amidst the silence, we will understand a truly simple truth. No one can make us happy if we ourselves are unwilling to return to love ourselves. Peace doesn't come from others, but from an awakened inner self. Everyone in life has to choose between love and understanding, between tender-heartedness and clear-sightedness. Some say that just having kindness is enough. But in reality, kindness without wisdom can easily turn into foolishness. Others say that just being clear-headed is enough. But if wisdom lacks compassion, life becomes cold. The Buddha once taught that compassion and wisdom are the two wings of a bird. If it has only one wing, the bird cannot fly through a storm. The path to liberation is similar. It needs both love and understanding, both compassion and wisdom. So our mind doesn't lean, but flies high in peace. In life, many suffer not because they are evil, but because they love in the wrong way. They help people but don't know their limits. They trust people without observing. They love but don't understand that even in love, there need to be limits. Conversely, there are some who think they are clear-headed, maintaining rationality, to the point where there's no room for human connection. They close their hearts. They are indifferent. They don't get hurt, but are never truly happy. Compassion is a warm fire. Wisdom is a guiding light. Fire without light easily flares up. Light without warmth makes life colder. One early morning, in a small market in the suburbs, Mr. Kwang, a middle-aged motorcycle taxi driver, stopped his bike by the sidewalk, waiting for customers. In recent years, his life had been hard. His son was studying at university, far from home. His wife ran a small stall at the market, and their income was barely enough. But he still lived gently and happily. One day, a young woman came to hire him for a ride. She spoke in a hurried voice, with worried eyes, saying she had forgotten her wallet at home and asked him to drive her to the end of the alley. Then she would pay. Trusting her, he agreed. When they arrived, she said she would wait a moment to go into the house to get it, then disappeared. He waited for over half an hour, finally realizing he had been scammed. That day, he was very sad, not because he lost a few tens of thousands of dong, a small amount of money, but because of the feeling of having his trust exploited. He went home and told his wife. His wife was angry on his behalf, calling him foolish. He just sighed. Oh well, she must be suffering to do something like that. But in his heart, there was still a smoldering sadness. A few days later, while waiting for customers in the park, he saw a young woman huddled on a park bench, her face haggard, eyes red-rimmed. Looking closely, he realized it was the same girl from before. In front of her was a small bag, with nothing inside but crumpled paper. He walked closer. She looked up, eyes filled with fear. He said nothing, just took a loaf of bread and a bottle of water from his bag and placed them next to her. She hesitated for a moment, then softly said, "I'm sorry, sir. I was wrong the other day." He smiled, gently replying, "If you make a mistake and know how to fix it, that's enough. Everyone makes mistakes in life." She burst into tears. Mr. Kwang sat down on the bench, said nothing more, just looked into the distance. That morning, the early sunlight pierced through the trees, shining down on the two people. One had been hurt, one was remorseful. There were no words of blame, only compassion spreading. A few weeks later, the girl returned to find him. She had found a small sales job at a nearby grocery store. She bowed her head in thanks and said, "It's because of your generosity that I dared to start over." He smiled gently. To be able to start over is a blessing. Live rightly, and life will be kind to you. That story spread throughout the market. People said he was too gentle, too naive, but he didn't feel he had been wronged. He understood that kindness with wisdom doesn't make us weak, but stronger. Because he didn't help her out of blind emotion, but out of understanding. He knew she was wrong, but he also saw the suffering in her eyes. Compassion made him love. Wisdom helped him not resent. In Buddhism, by compassion is love, and to wisdom is understanding. One who has compassion but lacks wisdom is easily drawn into the suffering of others. They love but don't know how to save. They help but don't know how. Ultimately, both suffer. One who has wisdom but lacks compassion only sees reason, not emotion. They understand life's impermanence, but don't know how to open their hearts to share. Such people, though not hurt, have barren hearts. The Buddha taught that compassion is the means, wisdom is the end. Having the means, but not the end, is incomplete. Having the end, but not the means, one cannot reach it. Look at the lotus flower in the pond. It grows from mud, but is not at all defiled by the mud. That is the image of one with compassion and wisdom. They live amidst a defiled world, yet maintain a pure mind. When they meet suffering people, they love them. When they meet evil people, they understand. They know that the one who causes suffering is also suffering, because no one is happy doing wrong. Thanks to wisdom, they are not swept away by emotions. Thanks to compassion, they don't become indifferent. Compassion helps us open our hearts. Wisdom helps us know when to stop at the right moment. Like someone holding a lamp, walking in the night. If there is only light, but no wick, the flame will die. If there is only a wick, but no light, one cannot see the way. Life is the same. If there is love without understanding, it is easy to get lost. If there is understanding without love, it leads nowhere. Many of us are searching for peace, but we forget that peace doesn't come from avoidance, but from understanding and love. With wisdom, we clearly see the cause of suffering. With compassion, we know how to embrace it. Wisdom helps us not to resent. Compassion helps us not to hate. One who understands impermanence, yet still loves life. That is truly an enlightened person. The Buddha once said, "A compassionate mind is like cool water. Wisdom is like a clear mirror. Cool water washes away worldly dust. A clear mirror reveals the true mind." One who practices cannot lack either. If one studies Dharma without love, that Dharma is rigid. If one only loves others without studying Dharma, that love is easily blind. When we know how to combine both, every word, every action becomes a means to save ourselves and others. In daily life, sometimes we will meet people who make us angry, who hurt us. If we only use compassion, we may easily forgive, but still hurt. If we only use wisdom, we can let go, but feel cold-hearted. Try looking at them with both. Understand that they act from ignorance, and thus awaken compassion. Thanks to compassion, no anger. Thanks to understanding, no foolishness. That is the path of one who knows how to cultivate the mind. One afternoon, Mr. Kwang sat drinking tea, watching the traffic pass by. He said that after meeting the young woman, he felt his heart lighter, not just because he helped someone, but because he learned to see life with eyes of compassion and wisdom. He said, "Before, I used to get sad when people were mean to me. Now I think maybe they are also suffering. Thinking that, my heart naturally finds peace." The saying sounds simple, but contains a profound wisdom. When we see the suffering of others as a manifestation of ignorance, we no longer blame them. And when there's no blame, the mind naturally finds peace. Compassion and wisdom are the two wings of the path to liberation. Because only with both can we truly fly through storms. If we only have one wing, we will stumble. If we have both, no matter how strong the wind, we will maintain our direction. One who has both compassion and wisdom. Their words don't hurt anyone. Their actions don't create negative karma. Their mind is light as a cloud. They know how to help others without attachment, how to love without suffering, how to let go without being cold. Try looking back at yourself. In times of anger, did you lack wisdom? In times of suffering due to others, did you lack compassion? When you see someone do wrong, instead of resenting, initiate understanding. When you see someone suffer, instead of avoiding, initiate love. Little by little, your heart will gradually open, and your wisdom will gradually brighten. Ultimately, the path of cultivation is not far away. It is learning to live with these two wings every day. One wing is unconditional love. The other is clear-sightedness, without delusion. When our mind is broad enough to embrace the suffering of others, and clear enough not to be swallowed by that suffering, then at that moment, we have liberated ourselves. Therefore, live with the wings of compassion and wisdom to fly through life's storms. Learn to look at people with eyes of understanding. Listen with a heart of love. Speak with words of wisdom. Then, every day that passes will be a day of cultivation. And when you look back, you will see that happiness is not far away, but precisely when your mind is both bright, warm, loving, and understanding, like the sun shining in a clear sky. Someone once said that human life is like a river. Sometimes the water flows gently. Sometimes it surges with big waves. The one who suffers is the one who tries to swim against the current, resisting all changes. The one who finds peace is the one who knows how to go with the flow, letting their boat follow the natural current. But going with the flow doesn't mean giving up. It is the art of living in harmony with circumstances, knowing when to advance and when to stop, knowing how to smile at all of life's changes. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a saying, "Adapt to circumstances without changing one's core. Maintain one's core while adapting to circumstances." This saying is simple, yet profound. Adapting to circumstances means living in harmony with the situation, not resisting what is happening. But maintaining one's core means holding on to a peaceful mind, not letting circumstances control or disturb it. Like a lotus in the mud, though it grows in muddy water, it still maintains its pure fragrance. Adapting to circumstances is not surrendering, but knowing how to receive everything with a tranquil mind. Many people in life often make themselves suffer because of perfectionism. They want everything to go their way, everything to be perfect, everyone to be as they expect. But life is inherently imperfect. The more we cling, the more tired we become. Sometimes, just because a small thing is not to our liking, we are annoyed all day. Just because a word goes against our wishes, we lose sleep all night. If we know how to live in harmony with circumstances, we will understand that no one owes us perfection. Everyone has their own path, and every circumstance brings its own lesson. There was a man named Nam who worked as an office employee in the city. His life was ordinary, but he was always worried. He feared losing his job, feared falling behind his friends, feared not keeping up with the times. Then, one day, the company downsized, and his name was on the layoff list. Nam was stunned. He felt everything collapse, felt useless, felt his future was dim. During those days, he just lingered in his rented room, looking out the narrow window and blaming life for being unfair. One day, he remembered the advice an old monk had given him when he was young. When conditions are favorable, advance. When conditions are adverse, cultivate yourself. He thought long and hard about the words adverse conditions. Perhaps losing his job was an adverse condition to learn to let go. He began to reread Buddhist books he had previously abandoned. He spent time caring for his parents in the countryside, tidying up the old house, making tea, and inviting neighbors. These were small things, but his heart felt lighter. There was no longer the noise of the office, no longer the pressure of achievement, just the bird song in the early morning and the warmth of home. A few months later, he had the idea to open a small tea shop at the end of the alley, with just a few tables, a few teapots, and a few Buddhist scriptures on the shelf. When customers came for tea, he would slowly pour water and tell stories of karma and life. Some told him, "Nam, you are too gentle. How can you succeed?" He just smiled. "Before, I thought so too. But now I see that being able to be is a blessing. Living in peace is enough." His tea shop was not crowded, but visitors always felt at ease. Some elderly people came every morning just to hear a small story. Some students sat quietly reading books, Some stopped by to silently exhale after a long day. Nam no longer had as much money as before, but he had a peace that money couldn't buy. Nam's story is a testament to the phrase, living in harmony with circumstances. When we are young, we often think life must follow the plan we draw up. But after many stumbles, we realize that everything has its own karmic connection. When one door closes, it's because another is opening. It's just that we keep looking at the old door, so we don't see it. In Buddhist teachings, living in harmony with circumstances is a state of mind that is not bound. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent. When our mind does not cling, we are free. We often suffer because we want things to stand still, while life's nature is movement. One who lives in harmony with circumstances doesn't try to hold on or rush to push away. They understand that they accept what comes and bid farewell to what goes. Their mind is like a calm lake. Even if there is wind, it only ripples gently, then becomes clear again. But living in harmony with circumstances doesn't mean giving up. Some misunderstand it as neglecting life and not needing to strive. That is the wrong way to let go. One who lives in harmony with circumstances still makes an effort, but with awakened awareness. They do their best, then accept the result with a tranquil mind. It's like a farmer sowing seeds. They prepare the soil, water, and remove pests, but they cannot command the flowers to bloom. When the flowers bloom, they smile and receive them. When the flowers don't bloom, they also smile, knowing that everything operates according to its karmic connections. Life always has its waves. No one goes through life without encountering a storm. But one who knows how to live in harmony with circumstances always finds a haven. That haven is not found in the external world, but within one's own mind. When the heart is at peace, anywhere is a haven. But when the heart is disturbed, anywhere feels restless. Therefore, the Buddha taught that we practice to return, not to seek peace far away, but to return to ourselves, to realize that the mind is inherently peaceful. Sometimes, losing something is to clearly see what is truly needed. Failure is for us to learn how to stand up. Adversity is for us to train our patience. If we keep complaining, we only see darkness. But if we know how to live in harmony with circumstances, then even in darkness, we can see the flickering light of opportunity. Like in winter, those who resent the cold will shiver, but those who know how to bundle themselves in blankets, waiting for spring, will feel the warmth of life. Living in harmony with circumstances is also a spiritual practice. It trains us in the gentleness of the mind. One who lives in harmony with circumstances doesn't try to force others to be as they wish. They know everyone has their own karma, their own cause and effect. They don't contend, understanding that everything has its own time. Sooner or later, right or wrong, gain or loss, all will dissipate like morning mist in the sun. What remains is just a light heart, a grateful smile for the present. If today you are facing difficulties, don't rush to complain. Perhaps that is the lesson. Life sends you to grow. Try to stop. Take a deep breath. Look at everything with peaceful eyes. Perhaps what you lost isn't truly lost, but gained. Gained a lesson, growth, an opportunity to return to yourself. When living in harmony with circumstances, you will find everything becoming lighter. No longer straining to prove yourself, no longer fearing being left behind, no longer fearing right or wrong. You simply live, do what needs to be done, then let all things be. For you understand that when the wind blows, leaves shake. When waves rise, water swells. But clouds dissipate, and the sky becomes clear again. All changes are temporary. Only a bright mind is eternal. Life is inherently imperfect. One who wants everything to be perfect will never be happy. Because happiness is not found in completeness, but in the ability to accept imperfections. When we learn to smile amidst imperfections, that is true peace. Therefore, remember that when conditions are favorable, advance. When conditions are adverse, cultivate yourself. Everything that comes has a reason for us to learn. Everyone we meet is a karmic connection for us to grow. When we know how to look at life with eyes of adapting to circumstances, we will no longer be afraid, no longer resist. We will see that life is not harsh. It's just that we are not soft enough to go along with it. When our mind is broad enough, all storms turn into peace. When our heart knows how to live in harmony with circumstances, suffering also becomes blooming flowers in the mind. That is the art of living. Not striving for perfection, not giving up, but dwelling peacefully amidst changes. Therefore, no matter life's ups and downs, please remember, when conditions are favorable, advance. When conditions are adverse, cultivate yourself. Knowing how to adapt to circumstances, we will not lose our way. Living in harmony with circumstances, we will be free. And when our mind adapts to circumstances, our life will be at peace. The ancients had a saying, "When the mind is at peace, all things are at peace." A seemingly simple statement, but containing the essence of the art of living. Amidst the ever-changing currents of life, everyone longs for peace. But most of us seek peace externally. In a quiet house, on a distant trip, in praise or recognition from others. Few realize that true peace lies nowhere but within our own minds. When our mind is agitated, no matter how good things are, they become obstacles. When our mind is at peace, even with wind, rain, or storms, we stand firm and smile. Maintaining a peaceful mind amidst the chaotic currents of life is not easy. For life is inherently like a river, sometimes gentle, sometimes turbulent. There are times when we feel our hearts are light as clouds, but just a word, a glance, a small incident is enough to stir the mind. Humans suffer not because of the external world, but because the inner self is not firm. We often let emotions lead us, let anger turn words into knives, let worry burden the heart, let envy burn away joy. Every day we carry all sorts of chaos in our hearts, forgetting that the most important thing is to keep our minds still. There was a teacher named Huang who lived in a crowded city. Every day she started early, rushing to prepare lessons, worrying about her children going to school, then getting caught up in work at school. In the evening, she was busy with housework, tutoring her children, cleaning up after meals. Some nights, she sat blankly, looking at the clock showing almost midnight, her heart full of weariness. It seemed she was living, but her mind didn't feel alive. She felt like a leaf in a current, being swept away without knowing where it was going. One day, she met an old friend who had once been a monk for a period and then returned to lay life. They sat drinking tea, talking about life. Her friend looked at her and smiled. "Are you tired? Have you ever taken a little time for yourself?" Ms. Huang gave a sad laugh. "I'm so busy, I barely have time to breathe, let alone time for myself." Her friend just gently replied, "Then try just 10 minutes a day. Do nothing at all. Just sit still, inhale, exhale, and smile." Ms. Huang burst out laughing, thinking it was a far-fetched idea. But that evening, for some reason, she tried it. She turned off the lights, turned off her phone, and sat down on a chair. At first, her mind was like the wind, thinking about tomorrow's work, then worrying about her children being sick, then fearing forgetting her lesson. But then she listened to her friend's advice, just focusing on her breath, inhaling and exhaling slowly. Gradually, she felt her heart beat, heard the clock ticking, and even heard the wind seeping through the crack in the door. Her mind, from being chaotic, began to settle. From that day on, she maintained that habit. 10 minutes every evening, just for herself. No phone, no TV, no worries, just her breath, and stillness. A week, a month passed, and she noticed something strange. Work was still the same. Her children were still playful. Life was still full of tasks, but her heart was no longer as tired as before. She smiled more, was less irritable. When students made mistakes, she didn't scold, but quietly looked at them, then gently advised. When her husband came home late, she didn't blame him, but made tea for herself and waited. She felt life was still the same. It was just her mind that had changed. Ms. Huang's story teaches us a simple yet profound truth. Peace doesn't come from eliminating noise, but from knowing how to stop amidst it. 10 minutes of sitting still doesn't change the world, but the change happens within us. Just as water only reflects the sky when it's still, the human mind only sees life clearly when it's calm. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows him like a shadow that never departs. This means that all suffering or peace begins with the mind. If our mind is chaotic, we see chaos everywhere. If our mind is at peace, everything becomes simple. Just as when the sky is clear, the water reflects the moon. When our heart is clear, life also becomes bright. But keeping the mind at peace doesn't mean escaping life. Some people hear the words peaceful mind and think they have to abandon everything, go to a temple, or escape all attachments. In reality, a peaceful mind is not found in a place, but in how we face it. A person amidst a bustling market can still be at peace if their heart is not disturbed. A person in a high temple can still suffer if their mind is not at peace. What's important is not where we are, but how we are within our own mind. To keep the mind at peace, first, we must know how to observe the mind. When angry, look directly at the anger. When worried, recognize the worry. When envious, listen to what it's saying. Usually, we don't look at emotions. We just flee or react. Angry, then yell. Worried, then fear. Jealous, then resent. The more so, the more agitated the mind becomes. But if we stop, take a deep breath, and look at emotions, like an outsider. We will see that those emotions are just like clouds floating in the sky. They come and they go. Nothing lasts forever. When we clearly see our own mind, we will no longer be dragged along by emotions. A person with a peaceful mind is not someone who doesn't get angry, but someone who knows how to get angry and then stop. Not someone who doesn't worry, but someone who worries and then lets go. Not someone who doesn't get hurt, but someone who knows how to heal. When we understand the mind, we are no longer enslaved by it. We become the master. Every day, give yourself a small space to return to. Not much, just 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, do nothing at all. Turn off your phone, sit still, and breathe. Inhale, recognizing you are alive. Exhale, releasing the burdens in your heart. At first, it might be difficult because our mind is used to chasing, but if persistent, we will notice something marvelous. Just 10 minutes of stillness can renew an entire long day. Maintaining a peaceful mind is a journey, not a destination. Sometimes we are at peace, sometimes agitated. That is natural. What's important is that when the mind stirs, we know to return. When the heart is troubled, we know to stop. Just as when a lake is blown by wind, no one can make it calm immediately. Only when the wind stops, the water naturally stills. Let your mind have the right to stir, the right to be tired, and also the right to rest. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is the root of all phenomena. When the mind is disciplined, all afflictions vanish. The Buddha once said that practice is not seeking solitude, but maintaining stillness amidst crowds. Therefore, one who knows how to practice is not one who abandons life, but one who lives amidst life and still maintains a tranquil heart. There will be days when the world outside is very noisy. Work piles up, people are angry, careless words hurt. But if our mind is at peace, we will not be swept away. We will look at everything with eyes of understanding. We will know that everyone is suffering in their own way, so we no longer want to compete. We will know that everything will pass, so there's no need to cling. When we are at peace, those around us also feel that energy. Peace of mind spreads. After a few months of practicing 10 minutes of stillness, Ms. Huang not only felt lighter herself, but her whole family also changed. Her children whined less. Her husband was less irritable. Because when one person in the house is at peace, the others gradually find peace too. Like a bright lamp, without needing to be called, it still illuminates its surroundings. If each of us could take 10 minutes for ourselves every day, this world would be much gentler. 10 minutes is not to escape, but to nurture. Those 10 minutes are a gift we give to ourselves, to our soul, to life. For only when our mind is at peace can we love, listen, and understand others. Therefore, don't wait until life is peaceful to seek peace. Start from this very moment. Stop, inhale, exhale, smile. Let peace no longer be something distant, but something present in every breath. When the mind is at peace, all things are at peace. When our heart is still, the wind outside also becomes gentle. When we are at peace, life naturally becomes peaceful. Someone once said that life doesn't really need much, just a serene smile and a grateful heart are enough to feel happy. When we know how to smile at a flower, be grateful for a simple meal, love someone without calculation, that is when we are living in happiness. Happiness is not found far away, nor is it given by anyone. It is right in this moment, in every breath, in every small thing we do with all our heart. Throughout the journey through life's storms, we constantly search for something called happiness. Some people think that when they have a lot of money, fame, or a loved one, they will feel happy. But then when they achieve it, they feel empty. Because happiness does not come from outside. It only arises when we know how to stop, know how to cherish the very small things we have in our hands. A warm cup of tea in the morning, an afternoon listening to birds return to their nests, or simply the moment we feel the warmth of our own hand. All are happiness, if our mind is clear enough to realize it. The ancients taught that one who is content finds peace even lying on the ground. One who is not content suffers even in heaven. Knowing enough is wealth. Gratitude is a blessing. Peace is joy. The more we grow, the more we understand that happiness is not about searching, but about returning. Returning to ourselves, to our breath, to every moment of the present. When the mind is at peace, life will naturally be peaceful. When the heart is clear, the scenery will naturally be beautiful. When we can let go of endless desires, we will realize that the most miraculous thing in life is not found in extravagance, but in simplicity, in the warmth of a sincere smile. Ms. Huang's story still resonates somewhere in the hearts of listeners. She was once a busy teacher, caught up in work, children, responsibilities. Life was like a whirlpool that made her forget herself. But then, just thanks to 10 minutes of sitting still every evening, she learned to listen to her breath and observe her mind. Those seemingly small 10 minutes opened up a vast world within her soul. From that, she realized that peace doesn't need to be sought on high mountains or in distant temples, but just needs to stay in the present moment with a mind free of restless thoughts. Happiness has never truly left us. In Buddhist teachings, the Buddha once taught, "When the mind is peaceful, the world is peaceful." All suffering, afflictions, and agitation in life begin with a mind that is not at peace. When our mind is agitated, everything around us, no matter how small, becomes heavy. When our mind is clear, even if storms rage outside, our heart remains like a clear lake. Therefore, instead of trying to change others, learn how to change yourself. Instead of wishing for life to be more favorable, learn how to live in harmony with circumstances. When conditions are favorable, advance. When conditions are adverse, cultivate yourself. As long as we maintain inner peace, any circumstance can become a place for us to grow. Life is a river, and a river flows unceasingly. Sometimes the water is gentle, sometimes it surges violently. But the river is never afraid of itself. It just flows on, embracing both silt and muddy water, eventually dissolving into the sea. Humans are the same. If we know how to embrace everything that comes to us, whether joy or sorrow, gain or loss, sooner or later, our mind will become tolerant and steadfast. For suffering does not come to destroy, but to remind us to learn to let go, to learn to love, to learn to understand. There are days when we feel tired, looking around and seeing only pressure, responsibilities, piled up worries. But if we are willing to stop for a moment, admire the sunlight filtering through the leaves, listen to children laughing, take a deep breath, and tell ourselves, I am still alive, still enough to smile, then that moment is a gift. Happiness doesn't wait until we succeed. It can appear right in our ordinary steps. Every time we wash dishes, sweep the house, water plants, cook for loved ones, if done with mindfulness, with love, that is meditation. And in meditation, there is no suffering. The Buddha taught that there is no path leading to happiness. Happiness is the path itself. That saying seems simple, yet is profoundly deep. It reminds us that happiness is not at a destination, but in every step. If we always wait until there's no more suffering to feel happy, wait until we are complete to feel satisfied, then perhaps we will live our entire lives in waiting. But if we know how to smile even as we walk, know how to love even in lacking, then every moment is happiness. When the mind is at peace, the scenery is beautiful. When the heart is clear, everything becomes gentle. A blooming flower moves us. A bird song makes us feel grateful. Conversely, when the heart is full of storms, even living amidst fragrant flowers and exotic plants, we still feel weary. So the most important thing is not where we are, but how our mind is. When we learn to turn inward, to tend to our mind as we tend to a garden, we will see every day as spring. Because happiness is like that, not something to be achieved, but something to be nurtured. Try dedicating 10 minutes each day to yourself. No phone, no talking, just sit still and breathe. Look deeply into your mind. See clearly the thoughts arising, the anger, the sadness. No need to chase them away, just be aware. Like watching clouds drift across the sky, coming and going, without concern. When we practice like this, gradually, the mind will settle, and afflictions will naturally dissipate. A peaceful mind is not because there are no waves, but because it knows how to watch the waves with a calm smile. That is the true source of happiness. Life is inherently impermanent. Everything comes and goes like flying clouds, flowing water. No one can hold on to anything forever. Beauty will fade, new things will become old, loved ones will also depart. But if we know how to cherish every moment, every person walking with us, then no matter how time flows, our heart will have no regrets, because we have lived fully, loved wholeheartedly, and been grateful for everything. That is the greatest happiness life can bestow. Our journey from letting go of afflictions, shedding suffering, to living peacefully is actually a journey of return. Returning to ourselves, to the inherently pure mind. When we know how to let go, the heart is light. When we know how to understand, the heart opens. When we know how to forgive, the heart is at peace. When we know how to live in harmony with circumstances, the heart is still. When we know contentment, the heart is joyful. And when we know how to look at life with eyes of love, our heart harmonizes with every small thing around us. That is happiness. No one can give us happiness but ourselves. Others can give us joy, but only we can maintain peace. When the mind is at peace, the wind blows cool. When the heart is clear, the crescent moon feels whole. Let every day be an opportunity to smile, to be grateful, to slow down, and feel more deeply. Believe that no matter how life changes, as long as you maintain a peaceful mind, you have everything. For happiness is not far away, but right in every small detail of everyday life.